Okay, it's the end of the 1 o'clock turn, and the French advance rolls on. Out on the left here, this group of cavalry here activated and drove the Spanish cavalry completely from the field. They routed and they're way off in the distance over in the north. The French artillery have now set up here, and they're causing some heavy losses against the Spanish here. There's a couple of French assaults just to drive the British skirmishers away, and some more assaults down here to drive the last of those Spanish raw infantry out of the area. So the French are very enthusiastic and optimistic about their chances here, doing very well, continue to drive their infantry. This is the infantry that has rallied earlier. The British continue to shift around into this area, and there are some sort of recovered units making their way back to the field. But you can see behind the lines here, there's a lot of bits and bobs, disordered, sort of recovered units gradually kind of making their way very slowly back to the fighting. But the French are in a pretty good position here. They're in good order, advancing carefully, and as I said, feeling optimistic about their chances during this series of assaults. That's the end of the 1 o'clock turn. Okay, it's the end of the 1:20 p.m. turn, and the French offensive continues to roll on. They've got their artillery slowly moving forward and just causing a lot of damage against this Spanish, with a bit of English out here in the southwest. That's really what's happening. All that's happening, it was a rain turn, fog, so relatively quiet. Gerard's corps activated out here on the left. The Portuguese are slowly moving up, so the French are here on the right, have sort of shifted their line a bit around to the north to face them. This is Godinot's brigade. But behind the lines, it's a bit of a mess. You've got some of these Portuguese here moving around behind the Spanish lines. There are some of these recovered Spanish units making their way back to the front. You've got some units from 4th Division kind of trying to set up behind the Spanish and English lines. The French have created a bit of a gap out here. This is where some of the Spanish were, and a few assaults this turn cleared them out. And then you've got some of these 2nd Division men here. This is, I think, Horton's brigade, the 6th Brigade. Yeah, around here. This is Abercrombie's brigade. They will probably have to shift around to face the south. And it's threatening these English positions along the Rio Albuera. So none of this is looking good for the English, Spanish, Portuguese. Having said all that, the French are looking rather weak in places. I think I saw one of these units was down to 1 strength. It's hard to pick up. Yeah, 1 strength there. These guys are still at full strength. What have we got around here? 2 strengths, so they're half strength. Or 2/3 strength rather. So there are a few reduced French units. But again, with this big battery in the centre, and all those Spanish routed units behind the line, I don't know how the English, Portuguese, Spanish are going to turn this battle around. Time will tell. Okay, it's the end of the 1:40 p.m. turn, so we're just at 2 o'clock, and this is yet another rain turn, and all of these weather conditions, these weather effects, they halve fire combat, they halve artillery fire, they reduce movement values. This all mostly penalises, I think, the British. The French have just been assaulting up and down the line. Even with these halved artillery values, they're rolling very well. They eliminated a unit here. I think they caused 2 hits here, despite the halved values. They caused another hit out here. This is, artillery close range, halved value, just rolling very well. The French assaulted out here on the right and routed that Spanish unit here, who should rout again. But you can see here the British are now setting up. There's a little bit of a valley here, and they've set up on the north side of that little, not quite a valley, a little depression. You can see the elevated terrain here. So some British skirmishers out the front, trying to slow down these French assaults. Looking pretty well. Strong, full strength British units. My concern is there isn't much behind them. Some Portuguese here, and a lot of Spanish stragglers behind the line. But I really think this will be the last line of defence. These British here, yes, they do have some fort behind them, but they don't want to have to rely on that. A lot of the Spanish are recovering well behind the lines, although routing a long way away from the battle. You can see in the background there some recovered Spanish cavalry. So this is, I guess the French are about to hit the British and see how their assaults go against these much stronger British lines. Their artillery, as I said again, just doing a lot of work. I think as much as possible, I'd like to keep bringing that artillery up and get them to hurt the British before I need to send my infantry in. It's now 2 o'clock. I think the weather is clearing up. Yeah, it's going to take another hour or so before it clears up. Hopefully, we'll probably have less rain this turn, this coming hour. We'll see what happens, how the weather affects play. All right.